Polipede Works here, coming at you with One Piece chapter 1082. Let's go and claim it. So we have a cover art this week instead of a cover story, and Prometheus is in this one again. So I'm not saying that it would be interesting or on brand to have something that looks like a sun aboard a ship called the Thousand Sunny with a guy who has now gotten the title of Sun Deity, but it would be a little interesting. It'd be a little on brand perhaps, especially seeing as how in this particular cover art request there's no real reason for him to be here because Chomper is eating Zeus as if he were cotton candy. That's the whole joke here. So why is Prometheus here? So I don't know, but we'll see. And the news that has shocked the world getting into our chapter is that Vice Admiral T-Bone is dead. And we get his post-time skip design for the first time. He has grown a very long horizontal mustache that goes both ways, straight across. And he has a little beard that looks like the engraving on his helmet. But the joke here, the visual gag, is that if you could buy the mustache with the beard, it makes a T, as in T-Bone. That's what I think was going on here. Very interesting, very cool. Going back to Navy HQ, Suru and Sengoku are talking about this, and they're just talking about how much of a big deal Cross Guild is in general, and that people from the Pepe Kingdom have been marked as responsible with the death of T-Bone. And it makes sense that they would turn him in for his bounty because that kingdom has always been strife with starvation. So I find it very funny that a man named T-Bone was killed in order to provide money for food to people in that kingdom. That's very interesting. Very funny. Food joke. So in this conversation, we see Hina. And I think this is the first time that we've seen Hina in the post-time skip. So it's very interesting that she appears right now of all times. So you know what? This gives me some fuel for another video that's going to be coming out soon. But yeah, she just informs Suru and Sengoku that Garp went off to save Kobe with Sword. So I guess Garp is not associated with Sword. And she's pretty sure that Kujaku went with them. And we know that that's her Suru's granddaughter. So yeah. Then we go to Empty Bluffs Island in the New World. I think this is the first time we're getting a name drop for the island that Cross Guild is currently calling their home base. And it's interesting that it's called Empty Bluffs because as we will see soon, Empty Bluffs now become reality. So we get to see the guy that has supposedly killed T-Bone, and now he has found out the money has been sent to his family, and Buggy's goons are inducting him into the Cross Guild because Buggy puts on this whole show of like, oh, we'll take you as a fellow pirate since the Marines are going to be after you, yada, yada, yada. And then we get to see the Cross Guild ship for the first time. It is immaculate as Buggy is the figurehead. You know what's weird about it? Because of the circus theming, it does have some traits very similar to the Thousand Sunny. I will say that. Also, it does make sense that the whole Cross Guild figurehead with Buggy at the front being sort of like the face of the organization, it makes sense that's the figurehead as well. What's interesting too is that I think this is the second ship because of the Thousand Sunny that has a smiling figurehead, and because of Buggy's long hair, he too looks like a lion. So it's all very interesting. This also reminds me of the Going Luffy sama that Bartolomeo has. So yeah, same sort of energy here. I like it a lot. It even has a whole circus tent on the ship that's very sick. So yeah, it's very on brand for Buggy. And of course, Crocodile and Mihawk think this is disgusting. As they say, you expect us to use this thing. Very funny. Very cool. They take Buggy to the meeting room, beat the snot out of him. And the next few couple of pages, I have to say, are just me kind of coming into being prophetic because I told everybody, this Cross Guild thing is not a joke. Buggy heading it is not a joke. It may have started out as a joke, but as we will see soon, it is anything but a joke. So Crocodile and Mihawk are just talking about basically what seems to be a bit in light of what Crocodile was trying to do in Alabasta, because he mentions the word utopia, at least in this translation, and his want to establish it. I wonder what his obsession with establishing a military state is. Why does he want an island so bad? Because, I mean, this seems to be like the same song and dance performed in a different way for what he was doing in Alabasta, right? Because he kind of wanted to put himself in good faith with the people of Alabasta. Even though he was just after the Poneglyphs, but still, it feels similar. It feels similar, at least. So, as they're talking, Buggy interrupts them, saying that he may be out of line, but he calls their schemes trash, essentially. And then he begins to reminisce on how Buggy himself and Shanks were on the Pirate King's crew, and how fast and how strongly Shanks rose to the top, and finds it very interesting and peculiar that now, after all this time, they find themselves on equal footing yet again. And then Bucky says the line, he wants to become king of the pirates. Mihawk and Crocodile seem more disgusted than shocked by this, but then he goes on to say, let's go find the ultimate treasure. Crocodile presumably kicks the snot out of him and kicks him into a bunch of torture equipment. And then he goes on to explain, we're not playing pirate. This is serious business. And then Mihawk, and this is very interesting, Mihawk says, do you expect us to pick fights with red hair, Blackbeard, and Straw Hat? He's putting Luffy on the same level as Red Hair now. That is immaculate. That is incredible. Look how far we've come, boys. Peachy clean, impressive, and amazing. And you know what's so funny too? He's seen how bumbling both Blackbeard and Luffy are, and he still takes them seriously. So he can see past the goofiness and can see them as real threats, on par with that of Red Hair. Very cool. Very cool. I love it. I love it. Due to dumb luck again, Buggy is kicked perfectly into a Den Den Mushi with the receiver unhooked. So the boys around Empty Bluff are hearing this entire speech he's about to go on. Buggy says the words, it's time to go and claim it. The One Piece. And everyone roars in excitement. Everybody is lit. Everybody is ready, filled with the spirit of adventure to go out and claim the one treasure. And this incites anger in Crocodile, so much so that he bites through his cigar, and then Mihawk is actually shocked, which is new for him. So, boys, I'm telling you this, Buggy is real. Buggy's so real. The clown rises. The clown rises so high. Like I said before, this is the start, and I think you'll start to see, especially here, a lot of characters in Cross Guild are going to start changing and gonna start getting whipped up in Buggy's pace. I never thought that this antagonistic relationship was going to remain antagonistic. Not a chance. You're going to start seeing camaraderie between these guys. I think the entire crew is going to start coming together. I also think we're going to get some new members, which I believe is fit for its own video, which I have been making in the background. So we'll talk about that when it's done. But yeah, this is the actual firm start. Buggy is claiming his stake on the prize. This is also why I think Law and Kid were put out of the story, because now we basically have our four main groups, two of which really do complement the Straw Hats themselves. Shakes' crew I still see kind of far and apart away from the Straw Hats personally, but also this is very interesting too, because we now know why Kid and Law don't really seem to have a distinctive cabinet of guys. Like, it was revealed that all the guys on both Law and Kid's crew all have names, okay? And I will say the guys on Kid's crew have more differentiating designs, but the fact that we didn't even really ever focus on Widener and Heat, which were kind of part of the main cabinet for Kid, kind of put into perspective that despite their accomplishments, yes, indeed, they were minor characters. And to be fair, when you look at the red hair pirates, when you look at the Blackbeard crew a little bit, when you look at especially Cross Guild, I want to really focus in on Cross Guild here. With Cross Guild, all of these characters kind of have whole arcs to their name at this point. Some of them several. Like Buggy has like what, 3, 4? Plus additional information? No. It makes sense to focus on the characters that have been built up for like, what, almost 3 decades at this point. Instead of like a bunch of new guys who don't really seem that important in the long grand scheme of things, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, this entire development makes sense. They have a ship. I think this is going to sow the seeds of respect in both Crocodile and Mihawk for Buggy, but we'll see. I do think Buggy, with this conviction, is going to start changing a bit as a character. Maybe not wholly, but I think things are going to start shifting for him. It's also very interesting that he too had 2 dreams just like Luffy, though in a very mirroring way. We knew his first dream, but we didn't know his real dream, which is now to become King of the Pirates by finding the One Piece. With Luffy, it's the opposite. We know his first dream is to become King of the Pirates by finding the One Piece, but we don't know his real dream. So I want to say Buggy's first dream was to find Captain John's treasure. I don't know if that really has any correlation with becoming Pirate King, at least directly. But with Luffy, we still don't know if Pirate King actually will facilitate him reaching the goal of his real dream. Presumably so, because he'll have the power and influence to do presumably whatever he wants. So I could see either or kind of working out, because if you say Buggy did find Captain John's treasure, then in a sense that did lead to the Buggy's delivery service thing. But then he got a loan from Crocodile, so maybe not. Yeah, maybe he didn't find that yet. Huh. Never really thought about that. But yeah, that's something to think about. I wonder if Pirate King will actually help him find Captain John's treasure, or will he find Captain John's treasure along the way, which will then fuel him to continue to become Pirate King, or continue to have the wherewithal to become Pirate King. Something to think about. Also, on the topic of Rox D. Zebek, I made a video a while back stating how I think Buggy is related to Rox D. Zebek, and I think Rox's rise to power was very similar to Buggy's here, in that his charisma did sort of capture all of these people to be at his side, because like Buggy, Rox had a lot of heavy hitters on his crew. But however, unlike Buggy, Rox had a lot of very peculiar characters who were kind of the genesis of monsters in the One Piece world, quite honestly, because Kaido's a monster, Big Mama's a monster. We don't know anything about Shiki or the rest of them. So, yeah, and a lot of them didn't really seem to have the mind to be very cooperative or cordial. The only one who might have was Whitebeard, but then Whitebeard was kind of on his whole pacifist route thing. He wasn't really one for power, but he was still very just set in his own way of doing things. So to him, power was a means of protection, not a means of authority. So his ideals still clashed with those of Rox D. Zebek, presumably, and those of the rest of the crew. However, here with Buggy, it's interesting because Mihawk is not a power-hungry individual, and he doesn't even care for titles. He's just there for security because he doesn't like being bothered, which is a very interesting take. And then Crocodile, what's so interesting about him is that we know from the Miss Golden Week cover story that he actually wanted to be Pirate King. That is his dream. So I think that's why he has such a reaction when Buggy announces that he wants to find the One Piece and become Pirate King. That's why he just bites through his cigar, because he's so wrapped up in emotion, because he's saying the things that he wish he himself had the will to say. So I'm saying this to say Crocodile 2 is interesting, because Crocodile, especially after the events of Alabasta and Marineford, has shown to be an individual that can be reasoned with, that can negotiate and make deals. So he's a very reasonable character despite his very coarse and malignant methods of dealing with problems. He is still a very human individual in how he conducts his business. So Buggy is in a better position than Rox was, I think, because he has actual human-minded individuals on his side that can be enraptured by his charisma thoroughly and won't get so wrapped up in their own power-hungry ambitions that they cause his downfall. At least that's what I think. So, one more thing. The hawk and the crocodile are now in the circus, fully and truly. I believe that wholeheartedly. But for real though, moving on. We go back to the Kamabaka Kingdom. We are introduced to the vice captains of the Revolutionary Army. So we're actually filling out the ranks of this organization. Finally, which is nice. Which makes me think that this is like, I guess, what, the 6th main faction other than our 4 Yonko factions and the Marines that is actually important. So we are introduced to Jiron, a man wearing some headphone-like things and some goggle-like headwear, kind of giving me Germa 66 vibes. He's eating some binoculars, and he is the Revolutionary Army vice captain of the North Army, and he is Karasu's subordinate. Then we have Humpty Dumpty, also known as Gamble, who is the Revolutionary vice captain of the South Army, and he is Limburg's subordinate. And then we have this woman. Now, this woman is actually in the anime, and we've seen her a whole bunch of times, and I wondered when she would actually get a name. She's pointing her mechanical cyborg arm at the shoreline as she sees a ship approaching. She kind of looks like a generation between, like, say, a Pacifista and Frankie. Like, she's not like hodgepodge put together, but her arm looks like somewhat advanced. And from the diamond in her palm, she might have a Pacifista laser. Who's to say? You know, it'd be really cool if her arm is like a remnant of that one Pacifista that Kuma paw patted away back in Shabandi Archipelago way in the pre-time skip. I wonder if her arm actually belongs to that Pacifista, because that'd be kind of rad. Like, if it's a modified version of that, that'd be cool. But yeah, we've seen her a lot. We've usually seen her in like a big trench coat, but now she's wearing like a mini skirt and a dress shirt, looking pretty fetching, I must say. But her name is Aru, and she is the vice captain of the East Army, and she is Bello Betty's subordinate. Never thought she was associated with Bello Betty. I always thought she would be associated with Lindbergh, but nope, that's Eggman. And then we have this weird cow guy that I've also seen a lot. I guess he's a cow mink from the looks of it, and he is morally subordinate, which is really weird. But I guess Morley's ability is kind of like shoveling cow manure, so I guess it kind of tracks. But yeah, his name is Ushiano, and he's the vice captain of the West Army, making him, again, morally subordinate. So, Sabo's not dead. And I'd just like to point out that, oh boy, Ivankov appears in another chapter where Crocodile also appears. How interesting and how coincidental that this has happened again for like, what, the 2nd or 3rd time now in the post-time skip. But okay, we'll see. Maybe it's just coincidental, but you know, whatever. But yeah, Sabo's not dead, and neither are the residents of the Lulusia Kingdom, as they all come on this giant boat. So apparently when Lulusia was about to get nuked, nobody of importance, like the citizens or the cute milkmaid girl from the Ace cover story, they weren't on the island when it got nuked. They were already far and away from it. Koala attacks Sabo. We see Koala again. Very nice. Wink, wink. We gotta see what happens with her in the future. But yeah, everyone's happy to see Sabo. Bello Betty congratulates those of the Lulusia Kingdom for surviving. And apparently now our I forgot her name too. Our little milkmaid lass is now a member of the Revolutionary Army, which is interesting. Very interesting. So Ivankov, Dragon, and Sabo sit down so Sabo can tell them about the identity of Eam, essentially. I believe that's what he's about to tell them anyway. And that is our chapter, and no break next week. But yeah, really cool to get name drops for these vice captain guys, because I wondered about the girl with the robot arm for a while, because we've seen her, I think, a couple of times actually, or at least at the times where the revolutionary has located to the Kamabaka Kingdom. So yeah, this is super interesting indeed. Excellent chapter. I await to see what happens in 1083. I figured we would see some cross guild stuff since we were jumping from one Yonko organization to the other. So yeah, very cool, very sick. I wonder what's next actually. Probably gonna go back to Egghead, but we'll see if we finish up with what's happening on Flowlet Island. But yeah, we'll have to see about that. With that being said, more videos to come in the future, and I'll see you again next time. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Polipede Works. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.